Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi. Amma ba'du. I greet our listening audience with the greeting, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our Thursday evening Quranic presentation. And today we will be looking at chapter 30, verse 21. This verse is taken from one of the class assignments. So we're going to jump into it right away. So we began, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Now, we read the verse in Arabic as it is. Now we want to go back and look at the translation. You in the class will be looking at the translation of Abu Faris. This is perhaps the translation of Yusuf Ali, I do believe. And you want to see what words, English words, or Arabic words, did he translate in the English. That way, it gives you an idea about the word without having to go to the dictionary. You know something about the word as you go to your sources. So follow this method. It's easier for you and it's easier for me as a teacher when I'm teaching you in the classes. So he says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and among, this man will be among his signs, آيَاتِهِ, and خَلَقَ, and is that he created, خَلَقَ, he created, lakum, for you, min anfusikum, from yourselves, azwajan, mates. Mates, this will be azwajan. Mates. So, litaskunu, we'll continue. Litaskunu, that, this li right here is that. That's the li for that. And then you may dwell in tranquility. All of this is for the one word, li taskunu. You may dwell in tranquility. With them, Ilayha is with them, and he has put, وَجَعَلَ, he put, you say he put, mawaddatan, love is mawaddatan, and mercy, rahmatan, bainakum is between your hearts, between you. Hearts is not there, it will be between you. So the word for taskunu is to dwell in tranquility. The word for bainakum, between you, and mawaddatun is love, rahmatan is mercy. And then it goes on, fi that, inna fi dhalika la ayatin liqawmin yatafakkarun, which that part we won't be looking at. So once you know the key words, you know the words, then you read it for yourself grammatically with the meaning of the words. And from his signs is that he created for you from yourselves mates. Or you could say he created, jump over, he created mates. And then pick up the prepositional phrases. For you, from yourselves. The Teskanu, in order that, this the Lamb shows that purpose, in order that you dwell in tranquility with them. You will say with them, not to them, but with them. Waja'ala, and he made bainakum, between you, now at that time. And he made love and mercy between you. Or he placed, the best word, he placed love and mercy. Then we go back and pick this phrase up, between you. So this is what you want to do. That's the first and second step. Read it in Arabic. Look at each word in the Arabic grammatically. I'm not going to go over the grammar today. Grammatically, and read it grammatically. See the meaning of each word. Then take a break and reflect. What is this verse talking about? What is it talking about? Don't try to go too fast. And don't try to have your own preconceived thoughts before you read it. Let the Quran be read to you. Don't you try to read into it. And look at each word in Arabic. So you can begin to think from the Arabic text as you form your logic from the verse. You want to think from the Arabic, not from the English. Don't give a lot of thought from the English text. You want to keep seeing the Arabic text. See it grammatically and see the words from the Arabic text. Now, Arabic is a very, very broad language. It's very dynamic. So one word can have a lot of meaning in one word. You can get a lot from just one word. So you want to start out with just having an idea about the word from the translation. There's probably not a good translation. There is no perfect translation word for word of the Quran. So you want to learn to read the Quran in Arabic. That's what we're doing, learn reading Arabic for ourselves. So don't go switching translations thinking you're going to get something better from one than you did from the other when you're in the Mali class, because you want to learn how to think from the Arabic text yourself. So just take the translation, Abu Faris, and do the same thing I just did. Gives you an idea about the words. Then we go to the sources. So the first source that we have, and this is directed towards the Saturday 9 o'clock class. This is where you will be beginning to get your lessons at this level now. So we have Al-Malakul Fat. This is the King Fat. This is the King Fat Tafsir. It's called an easy tafsir. It's very easy. The reading is easy. Nice, easy tafsir of the Quran. Put together by King Fat of Saudi Arabia. It doesn't mean we follow King Fat, we admire King Fat, so forth or whatever. It's very good for the class. All of our Arabic readings is related to the Quran. Everything that we have is related to the Quran, and we read for ideas. I know we live in a very idolatrous society where we create idols. We make the people our idols, and we hang on to our idols as though we worship them in terms of putting them in an association with Allah. No. We're reading this for ideas. It's easy reading. It helps you to learn how to read Arabic related to the Quran. It says King Fat. So now, the first step is take a look at King Fat and start with the Quranic verse and highlight the words, the same words you see in the tafsir that's in the verse. That way, you keep the same translation. Don't switch the translation that you have. The other words, as you translate them, you keep them in context with the words that's already translated. That way you stay in the ballpark. If you go and look these words up in yellow and switch them, you're going to have a difficult time reading the passage because the language is too broad, and you'll come out with all kind of ideas. So we have وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ we give it the same translation, and among his signs. Same translation, his signs. Don't change this word, his signs. Don't change it. Then we say at the lalati, this alif lam will be defining. This alif lam makes it definite. When you have a pronoun attached to the noun, it automatically makes the noun definite. You can't have an alif lam on a word and a pronoun at the end. The pronoun will make it definite. So you have a noun here, and yati is a noun. You have another noun following. So it could be, you have to look at the sheet, which I'll show you we'll go over it in the class again, when a noun follows another noun. If they're both definite, it's going to either be there's no verb that came before it, so it's going to be either an adjective or a substitute. You read this noun first, and then this noun first, and then this noun, if it's a substitute. This noun first, and then this noun, if it's an adjective. Which one sounds better to you? And from his signs, the indication, or from the indicating signs. You pick one of them. Ale, a preposition, that's going to automatically be the object of the preposition. Upon his majesty and the perfection of azmatihi wa kamali kudratihi, and the perfection of his power, we could say. This is not in the verse up above. So then we have and khalaqa. So all of this right here is between these two right here. And from his indicating signs, the signs upon his majesty, his greatness, and the perfection of his power. We could say his force, his power. And this his here, we're talking about Allah. It goes here. Then take a look, see if it makes sense. Is that he created? So here we said that he created. That he created. Then you have li'ajlikum min jinsikum. So you would say li'ajlikum for your sake, li'ajlikum. He created for your sake. Men from jinsikum, from your likeness, from your kind, from your class, if you want to say from your class, from your same origin. You have the same kind, same classification, gents. Yeah. So for your sake, from your gents, he's saying here that he created, and now we're talking about that he created. He says, for you from yourselves. So for you is for your sake, from your type. Ayyuha ar-rijalu, O men, azwajan, mates. Here's the word mates. So this right here is talking about this right here. He's giving a tafsir of this right here, because we go up to azwajan. So when he says for you from yourselves, it says for your sake, from yourselves, from your own origin, and fusikum, from your own origin. This is the tafsir. He's explaining the words here. Azwajan, you would say mate. He said mate here, so say mate. Don't change it. Don't say spouses, husbands, wives, mates. Just keep it as mates. You know what mates mean. Then he says, litatma'inna nufusukum. Litatma'inna, so this will become a verb. Tatma'inna, and this ta will make it she. It could be you, masculine singular, or she. Nufusikum is in the feminine, so this will be the subject, yourselves. In order that this was self, yourselves. And fusikum is selves. This comes from the same word, nufus, so yourselves. And this is tatma'inna. So now we're talking about tatma'inna ilayha. This ilayha is the ilayha here. This ilayha is this ilayha. So taskunu, he's saying from between azwajan and ilayha is li taskunu. So li taskunu, he says li tatma'inna. So li tatma'inna must be given the meaning of li taskunu, meaning to be calm, peaceful, tatma'inna. And yourselves, that yourselves will be calm, that you yourselves will be calm, your souls will be calm and calm, peaceful, at rest, at peace with them, with the mates. He said with them here, so say with them here. Don't change it. With them. And this hair goes back to the mates. Where taskun, and it will be where taskuna and you, the souls will be, and the souls will taskunu, and it will dwell, the souls will dwell in tranquility, and it will dwell in tranquility. Taskunu. This is with this. It will be peaceful and it will dwell. This will be the word for tranquility, and this will be the word for dwell. But since he said dwell, put dwell here, put dwell in tranquility, give it the same translation. Don't worry about all of the English grammar, just do that. All you beginning students, because what I want to see is how well you read the Arabic and translate the Arabic. If you're not a good writer, don't worry about those things. All your writing will be edited. All writing will be edited. Don't worry about that. Trying to go directly from Arabic to English is not always a one-to-one correlation between Arabic words and English words. But I want you to just keep the translations here and just fill in the rest. Then he says, وَجَعَلَ. So here's وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ. The same words. Just keep the same words. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ. And he put between al-mar'ati, the woman. Al-mar'ati is woman, and her mate. We say the woman and her mate. Zawj, we say it is mate. Azwaj, we say mates. We just say the woman and her mate. Muhabbatan, love is muhabbatan, wa shafaqatan. Love and shafaqatan is compassion. Love and compassion. So, this is how you will look at King Fahd. Keep going back at the verse. Keep the same words translated. Fill in the others. This love and compassion. So this is Mawadda, he said, was love. So the word here, love, this must be defining. This right here is defining. When it says, Bainakum, amongst you, is the wife and her mate. He placed between, it says saying between you, right here, kum, he's saying between the wife and her mate. And then mawaddatan, love. Here he says muhabbatan, love. And rahmatan, and we could say it's compassion, mercy. And shafaqatan, defining rahmatan. Muhabbatan, defining mawaddatan. Take your time and look at it. I give you time to take a look at it. Look at the words. When you look up these words in the dictionary, the words here that you're looking up, it has something to do with what you're talking about. You have an idea in English already what you're talking about, so you choose the right word from the Handsword Dictionary that you use and find the right word that goes with what you're talking about. That way you keep everything in context. If this says love, then say love. You don't need to flip it around. He already said love, so say love. If this is mercy, and you look it up, and this says mercy, then say mercy. If it says compassion, does that sound like mercy? Yes, then compassion. So forth and so on. Okay, we'll go over more in the class. Now that's for the 9 o'clock group. This is on recording. It's recorded. You can go back and look at the recording, and I will put this recording in your assignments. So you can go back and look at the recording and study the recording. Now we move on to the more advanced group. In the more advanced group, one of our sources is Ragib. We have other sources. Once you learn to read King Fahd, which is easy reading, and read it grammatically. Try to read King Fahd grammatically. Next time we'll look more at the grammar, reading the verses grammatically. King Fahd, all of the classes. That's why all of you translate King Fahd. Then, if you can do that, you can gradually begin to read other sources. Because what you're reading, you already know something about what you're reading because you have already read the verse and its translation. So you know what it is about. Now we're going to look up the word teskunu. He says to dwell in tranquility. Teskunu. That's the idea we have of the word. Abu Faris, he may have used a different translation, use whatever translation he gave to give you the idea of the word. So here he's saying, as-sukunu. This is Ragib, the Arabic dictionary by Al-Ragib al-Isfahani. As-sukunu is the internal noun in which the meaning is going to come from. As-sukunu. Now, don't look this word up in the dictionary and translate it. You can throw yourself off. This is a dictionary. We're going to let it give us the definition of this word now. You have an idea about the word. Don't think it's going to say live in, to dwell in tranquility. Don't think this meaning is going to say that. Don't look for that. That's the idea you have. Just to show you something about Arabic. That's the idea you have. The meaning is tabutu ash-shay'i ba'da taharraka. It is the establishment of something after it moves. So something established is stopped and it becomes established. Settled and established of something after it moves. Does that sound like dwelling in tranquility? Dwelling in tranquility. You're not moving. You were moving around, and now you have settled down. That's what you established. You established, not moving around, after you were moving around. That's a sukun. Then we get an idea. We stop and reflect on that. What are we talking about? We're talking about mates. We're talking about mates for the woman and her mate. Right? Go back to the verse. Just to show an idea. You go back and we're talking about that it's a sign. It's a sign. He created for you from yourselves mates. So you must have been moving around a lot. You must have been moving around a lot. Now you're established. You are established in Taskunu, so you will be established after moving. Just a common definition there. Yes. Then just reflect on it, what that's saying, without changing these words here. Put the definition up there and think about it. In order that you be established, the establishing something is you. You are the something. In order that you would be established after moving around so much. Then you're starting to get a picture about mates, being mated. Yes. He says, وَيُسْتَعْمَلُ فِي الْإِسْتَيْطَانِ. It is used in al-istaytani. Al-istaytani is to be settled down. Yes. And that's what we say when we join with a mate. Let's say we get married, we settle down. I think I've been moving around a lot. I think I'm going to settle down now. Yes. You see it? And that's taskunu. This word is telling you, defining a sukun, which is the group meaning of taskunu. Nahu, for example, sakana fulanun makana kada. That so-and-so, such and such, so-and-so fulanun, so-and-so. And since this means settle down, now he defined it as settle down. He defined it as established. He's established after moving so much. He settled down. Second day, so-and-so has settled down, right? Has become established after moving so much. He settled down to the place as such. So, Makana, if he settled down, he's giving an example now, to the place of such. So such and such a place. That's to say, Istau Tanahu. He settled down in it. And when he's second there to such and such a place, it means he settled down in it. Yes. That's from Teskunu. And then you could take the words here, as you hear me saying, and get an idea from these words. Get an idea from. You don't have to translate this in your writing, but you learn to read a phrase. If you just read this phrase, take this phrase and put it in context. Take an idea from this phrase. You don't have to translate this phrase. Some of you translate. You don't have to translate it. Take the idea here, and then you put the idea in words in your writing, in context with the other words in your writing. Then when I say, where did you get the idea? You show me the words here, and then we can see, in the class, we can see how you got that idea. See, more and more, I'm not being literal. So-and-so been moving around a lot, then he decides to settle down. Got married and settled down. How your writing is going to go? Because you're making a comment on the verse. The first part, King Fahd, is a reflection on the verse automatically. That's a reflection. Now you're going to make a comment. You're going to use sources and making a comment, and within your comment, you want to show where you see it at. That's the first step with the Quran in the Mali institution. You want to look to see, where do you see this at in your life? As I am talking, where do you see it at in your life? You don't have to go to Saudi Arabia 1,400 years ago to see anything. You don't have to go to Pakistan. You don't have to go to Africa. You don't have to go and see where someone else saw it and applied it to their life. You want to see, where do you see this? As you're reading the Quran now, we're learning how to read the Quran, and all we're doing really with these sources is getting a clarity on what the Quran is saying. That's the first step. With King Fahd, he's giving you extra words in Arabic to reflect back on these words in Arabic to get an understanding, a comprehension of what is the Quran saying. That's the first step, not what it means. We're not trying to flip it and get deep and heavy. The first step is the fundamental step. Before you can begin to prophesize or whatever, you have to have your fundamentals. And the fundamental of reading the Quran is exactly what is it saying. That's what you want to do first. Then, where do you see it at? Where do you see it at? Before we get into norms, values, customs, traditions, laws, the first step is, where do you see it at? That's how you want to begin reading the Quran. That's how we began reading the Quran. It's, where do you see it at in your life? We don't have to go pick up a book that someone else wrote, how they read the Quran, and applied it to their life in a different place in a different time, and say it's Islamic. And then we come along in a different time, from a different time and place, read what they said, and try to follow it socially, their social life, and apply their social life to our life. No. We read the Quran for ourselves. These sources are helping to read the Quran. These sources are not so political or social. What is the Quran saying? The first step, King 5, what is it saying? Very easy. This is what we should do as a people. Then we have a body of logic that we can turn to as we develop our norms, as we develop our values as Muslims in America, as we develop our customs as Muslims in America, our laws, our traditions, and we call it Islam. Yes. We don't have to copy the Egyptian in order to call it Islam. We don't have to copy the Pakistani, the African, anyone, the Chinese. Muslims are all over the world. They're people and we're people. Yes. And there's nothing wrong to be different as Muslims. For example, all the Muslims do not wear the same kind of clothes. So you don't have to wear the clothes of someone else to say these are Muslim clothes. No, you go to the Quran, where the Quran says cover your private part. Cover yourself. It doesn't give you the fashion design. You design your own fashion. As long as it meets the requirement of you covering your body. And thereby it's Islamic. So no particular fashion is the Islamic fashion versus another. If you're covered, you're covered. You're covering what Allah has instructed to cover, that's it. Yeah, sometimes in this country we get so caught up in fashion and following others. No, we're reading the Quran for ourselves. Yes. And we have a body of knowledge, which we're going to get to as we're reading. Yes. But Imam Jafar Muhammad didn't give the ABCs. He didn't give the ABCs to anything. Okay, so we apply to. So here is Taskunu. It's a lot we could talk about. It didn't tell you how to get your mate. There's no ABCs on how to get a mate, on what steps to take in terms of tradition or customs that we have. It doesn't say date. It doesn't say do not date. It doesn't say any of those things. So we read Quran, and then we apply the Quran where we're at. We look to see where we're at. Where do you see this at? Where we're at. Not where someone else is at, and we wish we could be like them. Okay, let's continue. Now we go to Ar-Ragib. No, we did Ar-Ragib. So this helps us understand what does it mean by taskunu. It means in order that you settle down. Settle down with it, settle down with her, however you put it. And look at the broad. We have to read one day Quran, go to Quran. We'll see the broadness of the meaning of this word, even beyond the dictionary, from the Quranic conceptual view of the word. We'll do that one day. Now we go to Ibn Kathir, another source. Ibn Kathir is another kind of tafsir that we look, and we want to look to see from Ibn Kathir the word taskunu. Let's see how he commented. We want to find the parentheses when we go to Ibn Kathir to see where taskunu is in the parentheses. That's without having to read all the whole tafsir on this verse, because there could be a lot of writing on one verse. So since you're at the beginning as students, and you're not trying to comment on everything in the verse, we want to focus in on Teskunu and maybe just a part of the verse. So here we have Teskunu, Li Teskunu Ilayha. Then Ibn Kathir says, Kama called at the Allah. As he said, the Most High, that he is Allah the Most High, said, and when he put it in green, it's Quran. He put it in red, it's the Hadith. When you're looking at the writing of Ibn Kathir on the site with the tafsirs. So he says, Huwa alladhi, he is that which khalaqakum, created you min nafsin wahidatin, from one soul, from oneself. This word was self, so let's keep self, from oneself. وَجَعَلَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا, and he made, or he put or made from it its mate. لِيَسْكُنَ إِلَيْهَا, and then he had the same, see, لِيَسْكُنُ إِلَيْهَا, same wording. And in order that he dwelled in tranquility with it, in order that he settles down with it. We have different words now how we can read this from other sources. Similar. He said something similar. Now, when you have this in the Quran from the tafsir, you don't have to quote the Quran here, but you can take from this and get an idea. That he created you from one, if we say soul. We may switch the word. We know what it says now. We got an idea. If we say from one soul, from oneself, from one person, then you get an idea here. And from it, its mate. Then he says, Ya'na, he gives the Al-A'raf 189, the chapter Al-A'raf, verse 189. That's the verse we just read. He says, Ya'na bidhalika Hawa. Hawa. It means by that Hawa. Hawa is its name for Eve. He's saying that Eve, he is writing, I'm not going to go too much into it, the understanding that the one self is Adam. Adam. Let me just show something real quick. So, nafsan wahida is feminine and grammatically. Wahida, this tag here, is defining nafsan, which would make it feminine. Nafsan wahida. Wajala minha, and from her mate, in order that he dwells with her. He settled down with her. This is he, not she. It doesn't say she settled down with him, in order that he settles down with her. Okay? Now, nafsan is feminine grammatically. Don't make the mistake that when Allah is speaking of something feminine, it's always the woman. And when Allah is speaking of something masculine, in the masculine grammatically, it's always the man. Don't make that mistake. But here, nafsan grammatically is feminine, but conceptually, nafsan is masculine, male or female. Nafsan is for the male, and nafsan is also for the female. In Quranic language, there is no nafsa with the term mabuta. In Quranic language, you don't have nafsa like that. In modern standard Arabic, you may have the term nafsa. In Quranic Arabic, you don't have the term nafsa. There is no feminine nafs and masculine nafs. They both nafs is applied to both the male and the female. But grammatically, it's feminine. Now, you can see that and start getting deep and going to something, maybe not, whatever. But I'm trying to just say something very quickly here. So he's saying here, so he's giving you, it means by that, Hawat. Hawat is the mate. Khalaqaha Allahu min Adam, meaning he created her, Allah created her from Adam. So when it says he created you from one soul and he made from it its mate, the one soul is Adam and the mate is Eve. He created him from Adam. He created her, Allah created her from Adam. Men Dil'ihi from his rib. El-Aysari from his left rib. So Ibn Kathir is giving the story. And we can go and study, we can research W.D. Muhammad and look up the idea of left rib, if you want to put that in your writing. What's the meaning of left rib? But let's just read the Arabic and see what it says. وَلَوْ أَنَّهُ تَعَالَى جَعَلَ بَنِي آدَمَ كُلَّهُمْ ذَكُورًا. And if he, Ta'ala, the Most High, made the children of Adam, all of them Zakuran, males, all of them males. وَجَعَلَ إِنَاثَهُمْ, and he made their women men jinsin akhara, and he made their women, their females. Dhakur is males and inathahum, their females. And he made their females from another source. Gents, you could say source, another origin, another kind, another type. If he did that. Min ghayrihim, other than them. If he made the males and then he made the females from another source other than the source that he made the males. So we're getting the idea here. He said if, right? If. Imma, whether menjanin from jinn, or hayawan, or from animal. Then this lag gives us the response to the law. This is going to give us a response to the law. If he did that, then hasala ma hasala hada al-i'tilafu. Then this i'tilaf is the harmony, the agreement, the harmony from the word aleph. If I make an aleph here, this is an aleph, and this is the line it stands on. And actually, there's two there. There's two. This aleph is two people. When they're if they're in this harmony, you'll begin to see it like that. So a graph, this is both of them together would be one. You will see it in harmony. These two lines are in harmony here. Now, this is disharmony. So if he had made the males from one source and the females from another source, then this harmony would not be achieved between them and between the mates. Between them and the mates, you could say. Between the males and the mates. Between the males and the females. In terms of mates, you wouldn't have that harmony. Now that's a very important idea that we can get. And it's very important for Muslims to understand that the male and the female is from the same source, nafs and wahida. It's from the same one source. It's not two. There's not two sources. There's not two nafs. There's not a nafs for the male and a nafs for the female of different creations. They're from the same creation, same source. Very important for us to understand. Belkanet, he says, Belkanet, but tahsulu, it would tahsulu nafratun. But nafratun, dislike, aversion, nafratun, would have occurred. Kanat tahsulu. Aversion, disagreement. Yes, like we see almost today. This harmony between the males and the females. Disagreement between the males and the females, because someone somewhere along the line has the bright idea that the male and the female are from different sources. And they're treated. The male becomes dominant and treats the female as though the female is not from the same source of creation that the male is from. And it causes disharmony. And we start looking like this over here. And not this right here. In the marriage life. Now, if we're like this in this harmony, in the marriage life, instead of being in harmony, then how do we marry in order that yaskunu, that we be in harmony, yaskunu, that we can dwell in harmony, dwell in tranquility, harmony, calm. Yes, we have to take the Quran and let's take the Quran and apply it to where we're at. Let's start from there. Yes. لو كانت الأزواج من غير جنس. If the mate is from other than the same source, sense. That's the idea we can get from King Ibn Kathir, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. I hope you see that. Now, I'm looking at all of this. You'll learn to read all of this. I'm giving you time for you to learn to read this much. We have a session on Tuesdays from 7 to 9. You can ask questions. If you have difficulty in reading, ask questions. The students. You have ask questions, and you can also call and ask questions. But be ready to follow the steps that I'm giving you. It makes it easy for you and I to communicate with each other when we're on the same page. Yes. Now, let's go to the more advanced idea. So some of you have requested that I continue to look at Ibn Arabi, so let's look at Ibn Arabi. And as I have explained before, Ibn Arabi, I'm working on a piece of comparing the mind of Ibn Arabi and Imam W.D. Muhammad. Now, in the class, Imam W.D. Muhammad is one of your sources. because eventually we're going to be able to understand Imam W.D. Muhammad from the Quranic perspective. We take the Quran, we can understand what he's saying because we can read the Quran. Yes. That was given to me by Imam W.D. Muhammad as an assignment. Yes, I can say it now. I could not say it when he said it to me because I wasn't teaching. I didn't have classes or anything. There was not even an internet like this. So what's my job? My job is to be the teacher because this is the way he said it. Because you're the one with the Quran now, you can help them understand what I'm saying. So you have to teach them. And now I'm fulfilling my assignment. But it takes time. Not one Friday, just to read something and say what he says. No. You're the one with the Quran. So take the Quran and help them understand what I'm saying. He didn't give me the ABCs. I have to find the ABCs for myself. The first step is to teach you how to read the Quran for yourself. That's the first step. How to read the Quran yourself. The second step is to see what others have said about the Quran, that verse, what you're reading. Then see what the Imam is saying. You'll come to understand the Imam better and what he's saying. Not only that, but then we will begin to have something to say. As we begin to have something to say, then the shura develops. A true natural shura develops because we keep looking at where we see this at. Where do we see this at? Where do we see this at? Now, let's form the shura and begin to talk about what's going to be our custom and applying the Quran in our life. How are we going to use the Quran now to improve upon our life? We're going to find our life where it's at. We're going to follow the wise one that came before. And he applied the Quran where we were at. And it looked so strange, his application. But we're not there now. Where we were in the 30s and the 40s, we're not there now. So we don't have to use his method of how he applied the Quran. Yes, he did apply the Quran. And you won't see it until you learn to read the Quran. Yes, but now we take a body of knowledge that we have from Imam W.D. Muhammad, and we're going to read the Quran ourselves, looking at other sources, taking into consideration what others have said. Then we began to apply the Quran where we're at. And doing so, something we can it's not against the Quran, it doesn't affect anything in the Quran. We don't need to mess with that. Those things that we need to change for the better of our life, we began to change until our life improves. As it improves, it becomes in harmony with what we would call Islamic. But we will not have to be copying someone else. As we develop our norms from Quran, our customs, our tradition from the Quran, our fashion, our culture, our dress from the Quran, it becomes Islamic. Yes, this is where we're headed, inshallah. So now, just a personal piece I'm working on is comparing the mind of Ibn Arabi with the mind of Imam W.D. Muhammad. And some people say, oh, you can't do that. I'm not idol worshiping. I'm not saying Ibn Arabi is better than Imam and Ibn Arabi is now my shaykh. I'm not an idol worshiper. I'm not saying Imam W.D. Muhammad is the man and he's my shaykh. I'm not idol worshiping. I'm not idol worshiping Imam W.D. Muhammad. I'm not idol worshiping Ibn Arabi. I'm not idol worshiping Ibn Kathir, Ragab, King Fahd, so forth and so on. That's not idol worship. But we have to have, as a group, we have to have begin to develop a common logic that we all adhere to, that we stand upon. As our norms and values stand upon this body of logic extracted from the Quran, it's easy for us to say W.D. Muhammad. He lived in America. He taught in America. We're African Americans. He was an African American. It would be easy to follow W.D. Muhammad as the body of logic, not as a personality. I hope you understand. I'm sure you understand. So now, let's look at Ibn Arabi. All of this has to be said, and more has to be said. So he takes the piece, and Fusakum as wajin, because this is the part here. We're kind of concentrating only Taskunu Ilayha, but this part is important before we get to this. He says, and khalaqa lakum min anfusikum azwajan. That's the verse. We know what that says. We've translated it. We have the idea. Now he said, that is to say, khalaqa lakum, he created for you, min an-nufusi, from yourselves, from the souls. I'm going to switch the term now at this juncture. It's still self, but soul. This is your self, your true self. This is your soul. I'm going to use the word soul. I could say self, but souls. As wajan, mates. For the cells, from the cells, mates. Lil arwahi. Lil arwahi. For the spirits. I'm going to say the spirit. So now we have the soul, so you can get a clear idea here. We have the soul as mates for the spirits. The soul and the spirit are mates. And this is going to kind of clarify even what I was saying last week, the week before. So in the Quran is so dynamic that any piece of the Quran could be related to any other piece of the Quran. I can take this and relate it to last week, even though it's a different verse, in a different chapter. I can relate it to the last verse, which I can relate to the verse before that. Start with the bones being weak, and then come to do not leave me far, do not leave me alone, and then connect this with it. And continue connecting. Yes. So we have the cells or the souls as mates to the spirits. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. Now, remember Ibn Arabi, he goes inward. He's reflecting upon the man inwardly, spiritually, inwardly, not outwardly. Now, when we first read the verse, we'll have the tendency to start outwardly and look at things outwardly. A male and a female, a man and a woman, so forth and so on. Getting married together and living in peace and harmony. Yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But here now, I have what I term the religious philosopher. He's going to turn inward now. Because we say you have the outer world, the macrocosm, which is a direct reflection of the microcosm which exists in man. The kingdom of man that exists from within. So this is Ibn Arabi. Yes, I so much to say. So I have to give you that so you can understand where we're at now. So the mace now is not Hawa. See, he said, how about Eve? Unless Eve is the spirit, one of the spirits, or the spirit. So you got the soul and its mate is the spirit. Litaskunu ilayha. In order that you settle down, be in harmony, be at peace, so forth and so on, you take the same sources with her, with the spirits. Now he's going to comment on Litaskunu ilayha. He says, where tarakunu, where tamilu, nahwaha. Where tarakunu is to be calm, quiet, trust. It's also in this meaning. Tarakunu is defining taskunu now. We're getting more, see how broad the language is now? We're getting more Arabic defining Arabic. So not only is it to settle down, it's to be calm and quiet. Yes. It's many ideas are coming. Be calm and quiet, watamilu, and that you are inclined towards her, towards it, or towards her. Her being the spirits. You become inclined toward the spirits. Bil muwaddati, with love, wa ta'thiri, and influence. I'm using the word influence. Influence. You're influenced by the connection of the spirit and the soul, and you love the love of the spirit and the soul. Litaskunu ilayha. And you see he's following the verse. He's talking about the verse. Go back to the verse. He's talking about the verse. Love, and now he has influence. وَجَعْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, and he made between you. Now, if you want to stop there, you can. A few more Arabic words to define Arabic that clarifies the idea of Litaskunu ilayha. But I want to show something with Ibn Kathir and Imam W.D. Muhammad. He says, وَجَعْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مِنْ الْجَانِبَيْنِ, and he made between you from both sides now. Between you from both sides. الْمَوَدَّةَ وَالرَّحْمَةَ, love and mercy. He has placed from both sides. From the side of the nafs and from the side of the ruh. From both sides, there's love and mercy. Yes. فَتَوَدَّى, so he's saying, النَّفْسُ, so the soul loves Nura Aruhi, the light of the spirit, Ruh. We know a little about the Ruh, the spirit, the Ruh. Where ta'athirihi, and its influence. The soul loves it. Yes. Like the man that falls in love with the woman that falls in love with the man. So it loved the light of the Ruh, and its influence. Bil kubuli, by accepting, wa ta'athuru, and by that which it is being influenced by. It loves that. Yes. وَتَسْكُنُوا فَتَسْكُنُوا an at Taishi. Thus it settles down. All the ideas now we have about Teskunu. It settles down now. It lives in tranquility away from Taish, at Taish. At Taish is recklessness, frivolity, and all the things that go with living single in America. But we're talking about the nafs. The nafs now. Because the nafs has fell in love with the ruh. So it's not so reckless now. Where tatasaffa, and it has become, where tatasaffa, it has become clean, clear, pure. فَيَرْحَمُهَا Allahu. So Allah extends His mercy. By His mercy, you could say, بِوَلَدِ الْقَلْبِ, by the son of the heart. Yes, He extends the mercy, the two of them coming together. He extends the mercy by the son of the heart. With the son of the heart, فِي مَشِيمَةِ الْإِسْتِعْدَادِ بِرٍّ بِهَا. In the placenta, you know, the placenta in the womb, the place of preparation, el-istidad, seeking preparation, the place of preparation now, because the two coming together will bring about the birth of the heart, the son of the heart is coming from the self and the ruh, the nafs and the ruh. From the nafs and the ruh, it's the nafs that's receiving, that's being recipient to the ruh of its influences. It's going to bring about the birth of the heart. Yes. In the placenta now of preparedness as birran, as devoutness, as kindness, uprightness, righteousness. Yes. فَتَهْتَدِي, thus it is guided بِبَرَكَاتِهِ, by His blessing. وَتَتَخَلَّقُ بِأَخْلَاقِهِ, and it is formed. It becomes formed because it's in the placenta of the istidad. So, like in the womb, this relationship is producing the birth of the heart. It's in the womb of preparation, being guided by His blessing and being formed by His high moral standards. فَتُفْلِهُ, thus it becomes successful. Yes. This comes from the nafs loving the ruh. Yes. We're talking the inner being now. Now, let's look at the last part. وَتَوَدُّ, we say وَتَوَدُّ أَرُوهُ. Now, the soul, the spirit, tawadda, aru, and the spirit loves an-nafsa. The spirit reciprocates. It reciprocates its love to the soul. The soul loves the spirit, and now the spirit is reciprocating that love to the soul. بِتَأْثِيرِ, by the influence in it, the influencing that it is placing upon the soul. It's the spirit that's influencing the soul, and the soul, we said, is receiving the influence, loving the influence. وَإِفَادَةِ النُّورِ, and the flooding of the light. This is the spirit now. It has fell in love with the soul. The soul loves it. It loves the soul, so it's going to give greater influence and just flood the light now upon it. As a result, we would say Yarhamahu Allahu. Allah extends the mercy bil waladi, with the birth now. Al Mubaraki, with the blessed birth. The first stage was preparation, and now the blessed birth, birran, as righteousness, uprightness, kindness, and birran. Yes, that's what is born out of that relationship. Righteousness is born out of the relationship. Now we have to really look at this idea of birran. Now this is Ibn Arabi. He's given an example from the verse. He's giving you a meaning or tafsir explanation from the verse using the nafs and the ruh, the spirit. Now, in my research, let's go and see what Imam W. Muhammad says that shows the likeness of mind to Ibn Arabi. Now, he's not going to be direct. It's not going to say it exactly, but we'll see the likeness of mind. So Imam W. Muhammad says, the point, now this is Imam W. Muhammad. I took this from a transcribed speech. It's a transcribed, it's not an edited speech. The speech hasn't been edited. It's a speech and it's transcribed. I have to say that. And I took it as it is, because I'm looking at the mind of Imam W. Muhammad. Sometimes when you study a person, you don't want to interfere with the way the speech was made. And then, if I take this and use this for myself, I will put it in my words. But I want to show you Imam W. Muhammad because I'm comparing him with Ibn Arabi. So he says the point we want to make with this is that God says, when I have breathed into him of my spirit, this gives us an idea of ruh, my spirit, ruh. When he is following the influence that I intend for him. Now, the him can be the soul, the self, the person. That's the nafs. When he is under the influence I intend for him, from my spirit, the ruh. God intended that we be influenced by certain influences. If we are influenced by contrary spirits, now, contrary spirits, so the nafs is a spirit, the ruh is a spirit. They're both from the same gens. See, we read this in other sources. It says that the male and the female is from the same gens. They're not from different sources. So the spirit and the nafs is not from different sources. We can say that they're both spiritual sources. They both have the same origins in terms of spirits. You see, I'm explaining this so in light of what we've read with all that came before. What they have said, what Ibn Arabi is saying, and now what Imam W. Muhammad is saying. Contrary spirits. If we're influenced by contrary spirits, as they say in religion, if we are influenced by contrary spirits, we're going to be taken into hell of a life, into a hell of a life. You will not have the birth of a birran. If the spirits are contrary to each other, if they're from different sources, they're contrary, they're not in love with each other, they're not influenced by each other, the ruh and the nafs, then you're not going to have this blessed birth. In terms of birran, you're going to have hell on your hands. A hell of a life. A hellish life. You see the connection between Ibn Arabi and Imam W. Muhammad. Now, after I take these two, then I say something from these two. Our life as mates now it comes, this the inner person. This is all talking about the inner person and the that he's talking about, not the outer person. He's talking about the inner person. And he's talking about the spirits, the Uru and the Nafs. These are the spirits of the inner person, not the outer person, with Imam W. Muhammad and Ibn Arabi. Now, let's bring it to the outer person. See, we want to start building the inner person, then we come to the outer person. Sometimes in the past, we try to build the outer person first, and then we go to the inner person. Let's start with the Quran, addressing the inner person, and then come to the outer person. So our life as mates, in terms of the outer person, becomes a ritual to the true life of mates, the inner person, when we're talking about the spirit, and we're talking about the nafs, the soul, the spirit and the soul. So then what we're doing, we're rehearsing as signs. Let's go back now. Just to show what I'm saying. It says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and from his sign. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ is from his sign. It's a sign. So our exterior life is only a sign to the interior life. So we're rehearsing, it becomes a ritual. What we're doing in our life as husband and wife is only a ritual life to the true universal life. We establish norms, values, customs, traditions, laws, etc. All of this is part of being in the placenta, is the term that was used, right? The placenta of preparedness for righteousness. Yes, more could be said. Then we establish, as we are developed. We form this ritual, and then we establish the norms, values, traditions, laws, etc., based upon the true universal principles of a higher universal reality. We don't live as spirits. It is the spirit that moves the material or the physical reality. It's the spiritual reality of the spirit and the soul that moves the material reality, and when it moves, it's in agreement with the movement of the materiality. When the spirituality, when the materiality moves in terms of work, in terms of living together as mates, it's in agreement with the spiritual reality. But we can't live, we're not spirit to live in the spirituality of the spirit and the soul alone. We're given this body, this physical reality to express it. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I thank you for your time. Assalamu alaikum.